live.
Put your phone number in there. That's it on the group chat.
Got a group chat.
Just explain what you've done.
I've come in this morning and checked the temperature, get the room to the appropriate temperature. I've gone through.
Guys, we're recording.
And got some of my equipment out to make sure that I was prepared. I've moved some tables around and got the chairs set up where need be. I've got my equipment out to demonstrate during the lecture. I have my PowerPoint ready to go, and we're about to begin class.
Do you want to pause that now? Or?
If you want to, if you're finished, then just go ahead and hit stop.
I didn't ask who, because they told me that yesterday.
All right, guys.
Hold on for a minute. Okay. Just waiting for what's going on. Sorry, I didn't know you were. We're still a couple minutes early. Guys, this is Toby, Captain Toby Tuggle with the Poplar Bluff Fire Department, and what we're doing today is that he is doing his certification for Instructor 1. And so he's going to be having your class this morning. It's going to be on PPE. I know you all just finished that, and but he's going to go back. There's some certain elements of it that he's going to teach. There'll be a small exam afterwards, and then and practical skills. So right now he's going to take you through the first part of this morning, and then Dave and Jeff take over later. So Toby, it's all yours.
Good morning. There's one new person I understand. What's your name? Dalton. Okay. Yours? Chris. Chase. Michael.
Jacob.
What? Jacob.
Right.
I will not remember your name. If you don't remember mine, that's fine too. Just hey. Part of that introduction that Dean did was what I'm supposed to do. I'll tell you that I'm Toby Tuggle with the Poplar Fire Department and what I'm doing. Not all of you guys are, well, this guy here is probably not familiar as the rest of you with the facility. So restrooms here, if there's any deficiencies in the restroom, please let me know. Everybody comfortable with the temperature in here. If somebody gets too hot or cold or something needs to be changed, let us know. We'll work to accommodate everybody the best we can. Most of you guys went over your PPE stuff. I think Saturday they told me. We're not going to go over the whole chapter of PPE. We're just going to hit a couple of chapters that I have interest in. So it'll be a little bit of review for you, but it won't be covering all of it again like you guys did. We'll probably be a couple hours, 2.5 hours, like Dean said, a little exam. We'll do a little bit of practical stuff with our SCBA and our gear. I know this gentleman doesn't have it because today's his first day, but we'll all work together and make things good. So if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to raise your hand or something and let me know. Like Dean said, we're recording this for my evaluation. So if too many people start talking at one time, we probably won't be able to understand what's going on or whatever. So we'll try to limit that. But if you guys have any questions, just let me know. We're gonna, like I say, the whole chapter is the PPE, the firefighter protective gear. Instructor, when you come in for inspection, first thing in the morning is the best time to inspect your gear. You're supposed to, it's your responsibility to make sure that your gear's good and ready to go for use. Because you never know when you come on duty, whether that's what time that's going to be. The alarm goes off, boom, it's got time to go. You don't have time to go start going through your gear and things then. So it's important to make sure that it's clean, inspected, and everything is good to go when you get on duty. Like I said, if you're a volunteer and you carry your gear with you every time when you're done with your gear, you want to make sure that stuff's ready to go for the next call, because you show up and you've got a sleeve out, or you got a tear in it or something like that. So you want to pay attention to those things. PPE is your most valuable tool, whether it be your air pack or your gear. These things is what makes us different from the other people. We always tell the kids when we go to schools to teach them, you get out of the house, because we can come in and what makes me different is I have a breathing apparatus and gear that protects me from that stuff. So whether it be a house fire, some other type of incident, car accident or something like that, that's what helps protect us different from everybody else. I said, you don't have this type of equipment that we do, it's specialized, and we can go in and help take care of the fire. So you're gonna work to clean these things. Everything's gonna be ready for reuse. If you get petroleum products on things, oils, things like that, all those things need to be, you make sure you clean. Bodily fluids, we don't think about that a whole lot, but when we get out to a car accident or something, maybe the lady was bleeding and you got blood on your coat, it's good that you go back and you clean that up according to manufacturer's inspection process or whatever your department SOPs are. You want to make sure this stuff's ready to go. Just like I mentioned, you want to fully inspect it at the beginning of each shift, or after every use, or after washing it, because, like I say, something may happen in the washing machine, or when it got sent off for service, maybe somewhere during the shipping or something was overlooked. So make sure you don't have any tears or things like that at any time. Make sure this gear is good and ready to go. Does anybody know what an FPA standard is for our protective clothing? 1851, yeah. So the NFPA 1851 sets the guidelines up for our gear. The soiling, you may get out and you may not have a fire, but maybe you had to rescue a cat or help somebody out from under a confined space, maybe under a house or something. So you just got dirt and things there. Sometimes those type things can be brushed off at the scene. Rinsed off maybe with a mild soap or something like that. A more simple type cleaning rather than if you've been in a house fire and you've got a lot of contaminants on you. Conditions, this is the things that we were kind of talking about a little bit, the contamination, missing parts, something, a fastener's not working properly, thermal damage. After a period of time, you may not realize it, but sometimes that gear becomes brittle because you've gotten a little close to the fire and it's had too much heat in time, and it becomes brittle and starts breaking or cracking. Those are things that we need to look for. Wear use. Shoulders, we're down on our hands and knees a lot, so sometimes our knees will wear out, or shoulders, because of where we've crawled, we've drug hose around us, but it's time wears this stuff out. So you see now, if you had an incident where you had to go through a window or something and you ripped from a nail or screw or something like that, maybe that would happen quickly, but sometimes it's just over time this stuff breaks down and starts deteriorating and comes apart. Shrinkage. When you get older in the fire service, your gear starts to shrink a little bit. So you gotta keep note of that. If it doesn't fasten the way it's supposed to or whatever, you need to let your supervisor know that, hey, my gear's getting a little bit tight. That last washer done it in, or the dryer's shrinking up a little bit, and I need to maybe get resized for some gear. Because it's important that it fits good. You don't want it baggy and bulky, but you also don't want it so tight that you can't maneuver in it and take care of what you need to do. The reflective trim on the coats, sometimes they get something on them from inside the house or a car accident that causes that stuff not to reflect like it's supposed to. And it's important for us to see you on a scene, for other people or your supervisor or the safety officer, when the light's flashing around, to be able to see that. Sometimes that reflective strip kind of gets worn and it just doesn't reflect anymore. If you get to noticing that, or you notice somebody else's, point it out to them so they can work to get that replaced. Typically, we'll talk about it more in a little bit, but typically, you don't do that here. We don't have somebody here locally that could go sew that on. It's something it's specialized repair that needs to be done from either the manufacturer or a certified person that can take care of this gear, whether it be a rip or this reflector or anything like that. Sometimes the gear might not be wore out, you just have a little bit of a problem that you can get resolved fairly easily. Routine cleaning can be taken care of yourself. Just like I mentioned, you brush it off at the fire, rinse it off, mild soap. Many times we do that. But after a period of time, when you've got so much stuff built on there, it doesn't clean off. Maybe it needs to be put in a washing machine that's actually suited for that type. We've got an extractor at our station. Okay? But you don't want to take it to the laundromat because then you're putting your contaminants in their facility. And so the next person that comes in and cleans his stuff has those contaminants. They're unaware of it, but we got to be self-conscious about what we're doing. So use these facilities at your fire station or wherever that, and sometimes the departments may have to send gear off to get special cleaned. Like I say, but if you got one of these extractors at your convenience, you can wash your gear, but don't do it, don't take it home. You guys, anybody that volunteers, you got a washing machine at home, you say it's big enough, I can put it in there. Bad idea, because then you're spreading those contaminants to your family. You can't see them. Most all these things that can hurt us, you can't see those things, but they're there. And when we do that, we're just spreading. Advanced cleaning, repairs, those are things we got to report to our supervisor, and they can decide, yeah, we need to send this off. During my time, I think I've sent my gear off a couple of times. We renew our gear 3 to 5 years, unless something happens to it in that time frame. But it gives you a good backup set, so when you are washing it, you've got another set to go on. But get with your supervisor. They'll know where they need to send this stuff and get it taken care of. You can get new Velcro, anything like that that might be a problem. Annual inspection. I know some of you know Burkhead that's here. He does some of our air pack inspections, but I don't think we have anybody on our department that does the gear inspection. That's something, if we see and feel like it's a problem, then we would definitely have to send that off. Yeah, only trained or certified people. You can look at the basic stuff, and if you have a question about it, then maybe a more experienced person, something like that, can talk about it, or see if it's something that we need to send off and get taken care of. In some cases, we actually had a fire at a chemical plant here several years ago, and we got some of these chemicals on us. Well, it was up to the company to help us out with that because we were there taking care of their fire, and what they chose to do is us bag all those clothes up, and they just replaced all of our gear, and that stuff was just destroyed. Sometimes they don't want to take a chance on a chemical getting spread to someplace else, so they took that under their wing and just destroyed the gear and provided us with gear. Sometimes that's what you have to do. It may be a brand new set of gear, but if you've been exposed to a contaminant that's going to affect you long term or anybody else, then we just have to get rid of it. Cleaning the PPE, just like what we talked about, the extractor is a good thing. Sometimes soap and water, but it needs to be like a routine cleaning after every call. Make sure that stuff's clean, and when you're checking it in, make sure your inner shell is good and intact with your snaps or your Velcro, things like that. You're basically inspecting this stuff constantly, so it's ready to go. Advanced cleaning would be more of the extractor. The routine cleaning is just kind of the soap and water part of it. Specialized cleaning would be some point where we had to send it off. Or contract cleaning, like say if you ever so often, once a year or something, if your department didn't have an extractor or a way to clean it, then they might send it off or tell you to drop your gear off and use your backup gear. What we mentioned earlier about not putting your contaminated clothing or garments in the laundromat or in your home thing, we got to work to limit the spread of this stuff. When I started many years ago, we always took in and put our bunker gear, our bunker pants beside the bed. Those things we didn't think about, but not all the contaminants are off there. Just like I say, most of those things that can hurt us, we don't see. So don't take your bunker pants into the station Don't take them into your house just so you can get into them a little bit quicker. I guess if you need them a little bit warmer, maybe put them in the garage or something. But if you bring this stuff in these living areas, it creates a problem, and you're passing on contaminants that somebody else is going to pick up, or even yourself. Don't put it where your vehicle exhaust is, something like that. If the back of your truck, a lot of people would not think much about it because most of the time it's out in the open air or whatever, and maybe the exhaust is going out. You're not going to be a problem, but just something to think about in case you did have it in a compartment that exhaust got in it, so it would break down the material. Sunlight, it says, just like I told you, all this little odds and ends that wear and tear. Repairing the PPE, trained, professional, somebody that's qualified for doing it. Sometimes it needs to be removed from service, or it could be used as, the college has probably got some stuff that's been donated, but it's not suitable for going into a fire anymore. But maybe you can do confined space rescue training or something like that with them. So, some things to think about. What can happen if your PPE is not properly inspected, cleaned, or maintained? Get hurt. That's what we said from the beginning. This is what's protecting us to be able to do this job. And if we get hurt, it could hurt somebody else. Yeah, spread contaminants. Yeah. Yes, sir.
You can also get sick.
Yeah. These contaminants, eventually, whether it be short-term or long-term, could bring illness. Cancer, irritations to our skin, or just respiratory stuff. So we got to think about all these things when we're inspecting this. It's not just for us; it's for the people that we're there to protect and take care of. We're going to talk about our air packs a little bit now. Describe the conditions that would require the use of respiratory protection. Any thoughts? Fire. That's the biggest one that we think about.
Anytime you're breathing in something foreign.
And sometimes the foreign is unknown. Sometimes we don't know what's there. Get a call to a lady's house that says, "Hey, I smell something in here." Okay, get out of the house and close it up. That's what we want our dispatch to tell them. We get there, we don't know what she's smelling, so we probably should have some type of protection, breathing protection on before we go in there to investigate this. She tells us it's in there by that bathroom sink. I can smell it. Okay, put our air pack on to go in. Sometimes you might feel a little bit silly. Back in the old days, that a lot of our guys didn't wear air packs like you're supposed to. Nowadays, we can see all these things. We've seen some of these firefighters die at earlier ages because they were exposed to something that was bad. So this is where we're at the age of not even having our bunker gear inside the cab of the truck. There's new stuff going to clean cabs where you don't put your stuff on until you get to the call. Special compartments they're making on fire trucks now. So your gear's in there, you get to the call, you put it on. So you eliminate all that. So those are things you think about. You go into this lady's house, she smells something back there, and you go in there, have you some respiratory protection on. Go back there and you may find that she's got some lawn and garden chemicals somebody stuffed into the sink thinking it was a cleaner. It's leaking now, it's caused fumes or whatever that she didn't recognize before. What are we going to do to mitigate this? Then, go from there with that. But you protected your breathing when you went in there in case it was something that would be harmful to you. Inhalation of smoke products of combustion, short-term and long-term, fatal. You breathe enough smoke in, that's what the killer is on most house fires. People don't burn up until after they're dead because they've sucked in a few breaths of smoke, and you're not going to last much longer. Your oxygen levels drop enough that it's bad for you. So short-term, breathing in a little bit every now and then, it's still going to affect you. When I was younger, I had asthma real bad. I couldn't be around any smoke at all. Been a firefighter 26 years with the city, so I breathe a little bit of smoke, so I'm better, but it still does affect me, just a little bit of smoke. So I try to make sure, you know, I have my air pack on to protect myself that way. Long term, you may cough a little bit, don't think nothing about it, but long term you find out you got lung cancer or something like that, or asthma or COPD from sucking in some of this smoke. So protect yourself now from the beginning. All you guys are younger, this is when you want to start and do the right things. It's the most effective way to protect your health is using the SCBA or any respiratory protection. Any IDLH conditions, even during overhaul, people really don't think about that, and you don't usually see these carcinogens unless you got a flashlight or the sunlight's coming through the window, and you see all these little particulates floating around in the air. Those are the things that's bad for you. You breathe those things in. And a good way to know that, hey, I probably should have had an air pack on. You get back to the station and you cough or sneeze, and you've got all them little black particles in your snot or something. It doesn't sound real good, but that you think, wonder where that came from. Well, it's a good thing my nose stopped some of it, but it doesn't stop all of it. So overhaul, most of the time you don't think about it. Oh, fire's out, get this air pack off, go in here, do some overhaul. Those particulates are still in the air, so you still need to wear that to protect yourself. Atmosphere supplying respirators provide breathing oxygen in oxygen deficient toxic gas filled atmospheres. Primary type used in our fire service. Just the SCBA that we typically have on the fire truck. That's what we're referring to here. Oxygen deficient, either be it from combustion from a house fire, or maybe a chemical spill or something like that, or you're in an area where gas. I thought about one the other day. Is the banks have these CO2 cartridges in some of their vaults where computer stuff is. It's a fire extinguishing agent because it takes all the oxygen away. So if we go into these places and do inspections, we see this. So if that system happened to go off and I didn't have respiratory protection on, my oxygen would be eliminated too. So those are type of things that we don't necessarily think about, but you may be going into an office space or something like that where they use something that chemical and cause you to need air purifying respirators. Something you see a lot of people wearing them nowadays because of COVID. The smaller the mask. These others, like in auto body shops and things like that. In some cases, we've seen firefighters use these in overhaul. It stops the particulates. It's got a filter in there. It's less weight. You don't have the fatigue from carrying that air pack around for another half hour during overhaul. But the cartridges need to be changed and inspected, those just as they would the others. Other areas where you're not exposed to so much, you can have just a regular mask. Respiratory hazards, the oxygen deficiency that we talked about, whether it be from a chemical, combustion products, heated air inside a fire. If just the heated air is bad for you. Burn your lungs, cause breathing problems. The hotter the air, the less oxygen is going to be useful in your body. The particulate contaminants, you don't, just like I mentioned, you don't see them. Diesel has particulates. You don't see that stuff, but in the ductwork, it's collected. You'll see it sometimes on the vents after a period of time. You'll get to noticing it. Inside the firehouse, we've got an exhaust system similar to your guys' here, but ours, the hose actually connects to the truck, kicks on the fan and pulls that stuff out of there. In time, that stuff gets in the station and continues to circulate in the ductwork, and you don't realize it because your nose has become used to the smell, and so you're kind of immune to it, or you feel like you're immune to it, so you keep breathing it. So anytime these trucks are backing in, it's a good time to have these, make sure the exhaust fans are on, pulling that stuff out of here. Granted, nobody lives in this firehouse, but in those firehouses where you do live in them, or somebody stays there, you're rebreathing this stuff and kind of making it bad on yourself. Gases or vapors, just like I mentioned before with the little lady has a smell in her bathroom. We don't know what that is. Typically, we don't see those things in houses, so we don't think about it. But you know, if you're going to a factory or something like that, where there's somebody says, "Hey, there's a bad smell in here," or "We've got 2 or 3 people got sick here at the factory." Those are places you're expecting, so you're going to remember to do that. You might be less likely to do it at the little old lady's house, but you need to. The airborne pathogens, particulates, things like that is what we're referring to there. Appropriate level of PPE and respiratory protection before entering an IDLH structure or area. You always want to make sure you've got the right PPE, whether it be the gear, the air pack, for what you're going into. What I mentioned with the factory, if you're going to go to a factory that they've got a smell in there, okay, we know that they've got a certain chemical that if it gets on your clothes or something, that it might burn, ruin the material, or eat the material up, then maybe we should contact DNR or contact our hazmat team, because this type of protective equipment is not going to be sufficient for that. The breathing apparatus may be sufficient, but maybe we need a different level suit to enter that atmosphere. So don't think because, hey, I got my firefighting gear on, I can go take care of this. We can't. Here's talking about the different oxygen deficiencies that I mentioned. Anything below the 19.5 is going to start making it hard for us to breathe. We're going to not have the ability to, our work decrease is going to go down. Dizziness or headaches, different things like that we're going to start noticing physically, and all the way down to could cause death before you even realize, you know, I'm having a little trouble breathing. Well, maybe you've already made it in this place too far before you can get out. Now you're stuck. So you're a down guy, now somebody's got to come and save you. The elevated temperatures, we talked about that, can decrease the blood pressure and cause your circulatory system to fail. It can put you in cardiac arrest. You know, any of these places that the oxygen level is down, you just suffocate quickly. Confined space, we got to think about that. What are we going into a confined space? Is there something that's pushing some air, forcing some air in there so that I can breathe? Or, you know, so all these SCBA is what you need to have. Inhaling air that has been heated to flame temperatures can cause serious injuries and death. Even some people that we've that survived the fire, they have burns in their lungs typically. Not only did they probably get outside of their body burn, but when they're sucking in that hot air, our insides, our lungs and stuff are really fragile to this, the high temperatures. And you don't realize it because you're just trying to breathe. It's a natural effect. You're going to suck in air and you breathe in this hot gas and hot air, and it kills you. The particulate contaminants, I mentioned earlier about the different things that can cause lung cancer, asthma, cardiovascular disease, COPD, or premature death. You breathe these things long enough, and you get any of these symptoms, you're going to die earlier. Firefighters are known for shorter lifespans than some of the rest of the people or the rest of the careers because of the contaminants and stuff that we're exposed to on almost a regular basis. So all these things that can protect you from the powered APR is a little different than the regular APR. The regular one has the cartridges that when you exhale, you're just breathing out an exhalation valve. On the powered one, it's forcing air into you all the time. So you've constantly got that airflow and it's pulling it through that filter system that way. The other way, you just breathe it through the cartridge when you inhale sources of these contaminants. Just about everywhere we go, there's something. If you go into a place where, like I mentioned, they had diesel engines running all the time, you're walking into an area that's got some contaminants. Short term for you at that point, but long term for those people that's in it all the time. Everybody okay? Any questions, concerns? Some of y'all did get some rest, or am I that boring? Some of the materials kind of dry. The sources of those particulates, chemical reactions, combustion, wildfires. You don't think of it a lot out. Wildfire, you don't have to get out in the open air, but all that smoke, things like that, the smoke has it in there, taking that oxygen away. The wind might blow in such air you can't get out of smoke. Makes it tough to breathe. Welding, cutting operations, so our auto body shops, things like that, where they're doing those operation of fire apparatus. So like I said, that vehicle exhaust, we've got an engine that the exhaust comes out of there and it's a lot blacker than that. It's like straight coal. Following an explosion or building collapse. Think back to 9/11. If you weren't old enough to see 9/11, then you can read it, or I'm sure you've researched it or know a little bit about it. When they were doing all that, the buildings collapsed. And some of them couldn't breathe the air. They got face masks, but probably wasn't protecting them the way it needed to be, because there was a lot of debris and things like that in the air at that time when they're searching, looking for people. That several of them have died, but those are things that short term, long time down the road, it finally caused a problem with it. Gases exist at standard temperature and pressure, natural gas. So even when we get a call to a gas leak at a house, we've got to think about having that air SCBA on. Vapors result from temperature or pressure changes that affect solid and liquid. Steam. Say, oh, it's just steam. Well, what's in that steam? What's causing that steam? What's causing that cloud that I'm getting ready to walk into? So all those things, either you're inhaling it, cancer and thyroid damage, it's getting on you through absorption, ingestion, breathing it in, all these things that we don't think about. My eyeglasses or safety glasses if I'm grinding or something like that right now. But is that going to protect some dust that's flying around, gets in your eye and I can't see? Dust would be easier to clean out than a piece of metal or something. But granted, you're still, if you don't have the right protection and you feel like, if you, down inside, it's something, I probably need a little bit more protection, then do what you're thinking. Let your gut be your judge on those things. If you feel like you need a little more protection and you need some safety glasses or some goggles that goes all over your face, or even your SCBA mask, get what you need. Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is what I was talking about that they have in those extinguishers, like at the banks, some of these facilities where they can't use water, or a ABC powder extinguisher would damage all the equipment. The bank's got a lot of important information on their on record, so they can't lose all this stuff. And if they use an ABC in there, it destroys the computer. I mean, you sprayed one over there, it would probably ruin this just because those particulates in places that we don't know. And the same goes for us breathing this stuff. Cyanide, hydrogen chloride, hydrogen sulfide, nitrous gas, phosgene, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, formaldehyde. Where do we see formaldehyde at? What I usually typically think of it is at the funeral homes. Funeral homes usually have, that's what they preserve bodies with. They put that through the system, formaldehyde. So you get a call to a funeral home, nothing never dead people. You never know. So keep these things in mind. If you, and this is always, it says firefighters must use SCBA when operating in or near toxic atmospheres. If you think that you're going to be in an atmosphere that might, in our job, it's just part of our career line of work. If you think, then do what you think is best to be extra protected rather than not have something and cause you problems later on. Respiratory hazards remain during overhaul. We talked about those particulates in the air that we need to be looking out for. Hazards from smoke increase. Hazards from smoke increase as the size of the particulates decrease. Hazardous concentrations may be present outside the structure. There may be chemical leak inside the facility. You're walking around surveying the building. There might be, if there's no wind or anything like that, that cloud may be around the side of the building closest to where it's at on the inside, and you walk right through it. You've got to, could be exposed just the same on the outside. So we want to keep these things in mind. What's the rule on, I don't know if you've made it that far, but the rule on hazardous material, upwind, upstream, uphill, yeah. Hazardous incidents can produce potentially hazardous gases and vapors. There we go. Always remain at a safe distance uphill, upwind, upstream until the completion of the risk analysis. Always consider atmosphere at hazmat incidents to be dangerous. So when you get that call of the little lady that smells something in the bathroom, something bad's going on here, we got to go check it out. We've already told that lady to get out of there. We got to go in, but we got to protect herself. We can't walk in just like she was. She already told us that there's a strange odor in there. We got to go figure it out. Always wear your SCBA until air monitoring demonstrates that it's safe. Hazardous, non-fire gases and vapors are always a possibility in transportation incidents or in storage or manufacturing facilities. We've got chemicals that go up and down these roads all the time. When you get called to that wreck, pay attention when you're coming up on scene. Is this something that I need to get out with an air pack, or what kind of protection do I need? Do I see something running on the ground? And even as a firefighter, mention these things to your officer or the person in charge, the senior guy. Say, hey, you guys happen to notice that? We're all there as a team to work together, so it's important that you pass things that you see. Say, yeah, I saw that, thank you, and go on. But sometimes things can get overlooked when you pull up and you got a lady with her arm hanging off over in the ditch. You want to run over and take care of her. I didn't pay no attention to this truck's leaking some toxic gas that's running down the street, or toxic liquid that's running down the street that we need to address also. Sewers, storm drain. Why would sewers? What are we going to get down the sewer? Yeah, sewage produces its own gas, but down in sewers, if you got chemical gas leaking that's heavier than air, drops down into those lines. So we got to pay attention to that if we go to an incident like this. Okay, is there any sewers nearby that we need to have the sewer company come out and be air monitored, or maybe we need to air monitor that? Had an incident at up here at Hutch one time. They had a gas leak. We were getting gas vapors we could smell, but we had to start monitoring our sewer just to make sure that this wasn't going everywhere else too. Caves, storm drains, trenches, storage tanks, tank cars. We got a rail system that goes through our community. So it's something we always got to be aware of. Somebody they see a train, sometimes to a train, or they see something leaking from the train. I see a vapor. We got to be aware of those things and start checking, going and checking it out in a manner that's safe to us from a distance. Confined spaces, other confined spaces that you might not think about underneath the VA hospital. down there where all their plumbing and pipes, gas lines are all at. It's a pretty confined, spaced area. When we go down there to train or inspect, always think about that. Well, if they had a call there that, hey, I smell something, or we see a strange green fluid down here, I don't want to just walk in there on that. I don't know what this green fluid is, so I want to protect myself and make sure that we've got the right stuff on. But that'd be a confined space. What I would consider a confined space, because it's a little tighter to get around. You got pipes to crawl over and under, things like that. Disease-causing microorganisms suspended in the air cause illness through inhalation or direct contact. Different types of illness. With COVID, why we see a lot of people wearing these face masks right now is because of COVID. Flu symptoms, things like that. We didn't used to see that as often until the last couple of years, and now just about everywhere you go, there's somebody wearing a mask to protect themselves, or maybe they've got something they're trying to protect you from. We encounter these during medical responses, vehicle extrications, recovery, terrorist attacks. Right after COVID started, we had a car accident, and because we weren't used to putting on N95 mask or wearing anything like that, we jumped in the car, and started helping the girl get out. She had rolled the car over there on Barron Road. Well, then after we got back to the station, we're like, man, I hope she didn't have any illness, COVID or anything, because we were right down up there with her. And you become complacent, or your focus is you get tunnel vision because you want to help the person that's hollering or screaming, or the car's upside down. So our priority is getting her out for EMS. We didn't think about that. We're a lot more conscious of those type of situations now because we've been doing it for a little bit. But that's what you got to get yourself into. Like, we work every third day, so every third day my focus is different on how I'm going to go to something, or what I'm going to do. It changes your life essentially, but every third day I make sure that I'm doing what I can do to protect the person I'm there to help. What type of conditions use respiratory protection to be necessary? We talked about it at the beginning. I think I asked this the very same question. Talked about fires or different emergencies like that. After going through that, anybody think of anything else? Why must a firefighter always wear respiratory protection that is appropriate to the situation at hand? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we're not protecting ourselves, but the situation, like I said, may be something that deteriorates cloth. You walk in here with this gear on because you think, I got my firefighter gear on, but it's not the right gear. Try to get through this parts of an SCBA, and then we'll take a little break. Two main types of SCBA: open circuit and closed circuit. Open circuit is typically what we use inside the fire service. Closed circuit is a little bit different. You're kind of rebreathing air. It has actually oxygen chamber, and then you're breathing that air back into the system. Where ours that we use in the fire service has an exhalation valve, and we're just breathing it back out. But in ours, we don't have oxygen. I know a lot of times you'll go out in the public and they'll say, yeah, I seen you had your oxygen tank on. It's just air, it's just compressed air. But people see a tank that's compressed, they think that we're breathing oxygen. In the closed circuit, it literally does have an oxygen tank, but we don't typically see those. Nose cup in your face piece. A lot of the SCBAs, I don't know if you guys on your mask here, does it have a plastic shield over it that protects the mask itself? Because on ours, we actually, this one doesn't have one. These used to be our mask, but they make a little film that you can put over this that protects this from getting scratched. Because once this is scratched, it's just done for. We'd have to send it back to a certified company to replace this piece of plastic. But they make a little plastic piece that goes over this, so if it gets scratched, you peel it off and put another one on. The nose cup inside there, that helps when you're breathing, helps keeps from fogging the mask up a little bit. Regulator and a bypass valve. Bypass valve, if we get into it, our face mask doesn't seal right, or something happens when we're in there, and we're starting to get either a smell or a little bit of smoke in, we can use that bypass valve to open it up and get positive pressure flowing in there to force that out. High pressure hose and a RIC valve, rapid intervention crew. We in our department have more so referred to them as a RIC team, rapid intervention team, but that's what this hose would be for the emergency connection. The cylinder has a valve, and then there on the front is your exhalation valve. This is, like I said, typically just what we're using in the fire service. The others are typically known as rebreathers. 4 basic components of the SCBA that we use. The open circuit is the back plate of the harness assembly. When we're inspecting that, all of these components, you need to make sure they're working properly. They help carry, and like I say, the newer air packs, that's why we get upgraded from some of this, and every time there's an air pack come out, NFPA or their standards change, so they have a few more bells and whistles on them than what they used to. So they try to make them more comfortable. The padding sometimes in this strap gets redone. It's got a little bit more, or maybe it's designed in such a way that you don't got to snug those down completely tight where that thing rides on your back or your hips a little better. But when you put it on, you want to make sure it's secure, and that's the last people that sold us an air pack. It was one of the guys kind of made a comment. He says, "I don't even know that I got it on my back." I think he's a little bit crazy, or after you work for a little bit, maybe he figured out, well, it really is there. But the more comfortable they make these, it's more user-friendly. We can work a little bit longer. Low pressure alarm, waist strap, bottle, pass device. Nowadays, these pass devices are integrated in every air pack. I know there's one around here somewhere that I brought. We used to have air packs that didn't have pass devices, so you had to remember to turn your pass device on when you got to an incident. Can we think of a time that we might not be wearing an air pack that we might need a pass device? Yeah, something like that, or we don't have a lot of personnel, and that's just part of what today brings us is you might need a pass device out fighting a witch fire or something like that. I'm not wearing an air pack, but I may need something that if I get down, fall in a hole or anything like that, somebody can help me. Nowadays, most of our guys have radios, so we can communicate that way. They have alarms on our radios now, so we can let somebody know. But there are times that you think, hey, maybe we should have a little pass device that I can turn on, because until I turn my air pack on with these new ones, my pass device is not activated. Every manufacturer is different for their bells and whistles. We went from MSA, and when I started the department, we had MSA, and then we got the newer MSA. Now we use a Draeger pack. Similar, because there's certain specifications that NFPA says you got to have. but they add little bells and whistles. Some of them do accountability, where when you come on, and actually I think our Drager's one has that. It's just what your department has to spend. And my past device, when I would turn it on, they make a little card, like a card reader thing, and I can do that, and this identifies me for that shift. And then on a big incident, if we had this type of system, the officer in charge could go to a computer and pull up, and it would show him where I was, how much air I had left, things like that. There are all kinds of different gadgets and whistles that they can get on them now. It just depends on what your department's able to spend. They're fancy things. They can make them where your face piece connects to your radio with Bluetooth stuff. But it's always things that could possibly go wrong too. All the bottles are different. You'll see that Scott bottle over there is a more slim bottle. The ones that we have with MSA are bigger. I'm sure these other manufacturers got the same type, smaller bottles. Some of them's wrapped in Kevlar, some of them's fiberglass wrapped. But the duration, all the bottles that we used to have was a 30-minute bottles with the 2200 PSI. We went up to the 4500 PSI. So it gave us a little bit more time. Not much of a difference really. You didn't notice it in the bottle. Of course, back, I can say when Dean, but it was my age group too. When we got on the county, they had steel tanks. I know you guys got some around here somewhere. I don't know if they've made you strap one on and do some work with it, but the steel tank was you knew you had an air pack on, that's for sure. But if that's what you were brought up around and that's what you used every time you went to a fire, it just seemed natural. Nowadays, if Steve would come in next class and say, hey, I want you to put on a steel tank and go in and do a search. Well, you're going to hope that search gets over a little bit faster than you would if you was wearing one of these, because there's definitely a weight difference in that cylinder. On the 45-minute bottles, that gives you down about 30 minutes of working at a fire. We just don't breathe the same. You're exerting a lot of energy. We've got that mask on. It goes a little bit quicker than the 45 minutes, but it gave us a little bit more than our 30-minute bottle. Sometimes a 30-minute bottle gave us about 20 minutes of air. Your cylinder has the pressure gauge, stem, the control valve. The cylinder contains breathing air under pressure, not oxygen. Just like I said before, people think, oh, you got that oxygen tank on your back. I don't want an oxygen tank on my back. We'll often catch on fire and blow something up. Constructed steel aluminum wrapped with fiberglass, Kevlar, or carbon composite. Makes it a whole lot better on the weight down there, where the cylinder weighs 8 to 20 pounds. When you're talking about the 20 pounds, you're talking about those steel tanks. You gotta steer clear of those if you can. If it's your only option, you gotta use it. Regulator assembly. All this is the old time packs that we had when we started on Butler County. Carried a little metal box. You unscrewed this here. It had a little flapper valve in there. You had to make sure that flapper valve was working. So every shift when you come in and done your inspection, that was part of it. It was a little more detailed than what it is now. Had this little rubber disc, and it had a little metal flapper on top. And sometimes when the guys inspected it, they turned that over the wrong way, and it happened. Then when you stuck your mask on and tried to breathe air, you didn't have anything. So you had to make sure that if you didn't check your air pack out right, you could be going to a call and turn on your air and nothing be there for you. So it was real important. We talked about on the face piece assembly, the nose cup, the regulator fitting, those lens. Sometimes if your lens is bad enough where you're having trouble, most times you guys, I'll give you the example that I use when I go teach kids. What can you see in a fire? Nothing. What I always tell the little kids, I say, you want to see what it looks like in a fire? Yeah, they're all excited. So I have them cover their eyes up. I say, what do you see? Nothing. Okay, that's what we see in a fire. So sometimes this lens being scratched up may not mean a whole lot, but where there is a time that you need to see out of it, if your lens gets too scratched up and you feel like you needs to be replaced, then like I say, turn it in for your to your supervisor so you can get it replaced. Low pressure readings may not match the regulator gauge. Always assume that the lower of the two numbers is correct. Better safe than sorry than there. This number here may not match what this here's reading, but whichever one's lower is the ones you need to trust. Some of the things that are added on the SCBAs now is the emergency breathing support that we talked about, the rapid intervention crew. They have those hoses on the side so that it's a buddy breather, basically what it is. The heads-up display. Usually you got 4 lights there letting you know. Can you always count on that? Maybe, maybe not. So you got your regulator where you can pull up and look at, hey, how much air does this have out? You know, your light, maybe that somebody didn't replace the battery, maybe the battery just went dead on it. So you got other ways to look at that, but that is pretty helpful. At first I thought, man, that was going to be a distraction when you're in there doing stuff and you see this light start flashing, because as it gets lower, the light starts flashing and lets you know, and then you start making noises. But you gotta, it doesn't distract you. You don't really pay a whole lot of attention to it. The components found in an open circuit SCBA. Yes, sir. Right? Yep. Base piece. Regulator. All of these things, so keep those things in mind. Let's take a little 10-minute break, then we'll come back and talk about the limitations of SCBA.
Don't commit to go. You want to pause that? You don't need to pause it.
I got some chewing gum up there if anybody needs a piece of gum.
We'll start over as another one.
This section's over talking about the limitations of SCBA. Any ideas on some limitations? Visibility? Breathing? Yeah. Physical limitations, yeah. Things that we can have some control over. Let's see. The wear limitations, lack of physical condition. Part of being a firefighter is being physically fit. We have a training, agility tests, and things like that you go through. This is part of it, because once you get all this extra gear on, it's not like just running up to the grocery store. Run up to the grocery store with all this gear on and see, you won't want to go very often. Ooh, I'm tired of going to the grocery store. Lack of agility, more cumbersome. It's hard for us. You got this gear on, that's why I said you don't want it too bulky, because then you got to worry about it hanging up on stuff, but you also don't want it so tight that you can't move around. Impaired balance, get that big heavy thing on your back, may limit you or may cause problems when you go to have to move around a certain way, getting on and off the truck. jump off the truck and you got that big weight on your back and you ain't used to it or not physically fit for it, it's liable to keep you going forward, landing in the ditch on your face. Inadequate pulmonary capacity is part of what we have to do every year during our physical test. They make us blow in this thing and make sure we got enough lung capacity so that we can breathe all right. Weakened cardiovascular ability, physiological limitations. What do we think? What are we talking about here? Claustrophobic, yeah. We've actually had, this was before they had this Firefighter 1 and 2 program here, some guys done everything they could do to be a firefighter, come to the fire station. Well, just like we talked about earlier, your visibility is limited. You can cover your eyes up and you know that's how far you can see in a fire. And part of our test includes a blacked out SCBA mask, and we put you in a room, you got to find your way around. We've had put them in this room for this test, but they was jerking, trying to, they got claustrophobic. That was part of it they couldn't do. Well, you can't be a firefighter in that case, because we go into places where we're having to feel our way, either downstairs, up closets, under beds, things like that. You have no idea what's in front of you. We've run into a lot of strange stuff, animals, things like that you don't know because you can't see. And that's, if you got that mask on and you get claustrophobic, firefighting's not the place for you. Unique facial features. Sometimes maybe somebody's got a little longer head or wider head or something like that. If the mask doesn't fit you good, then that may be a limitation. Maybe you, sometimes what they say grimace is when you do a mask fit test and you move your face a certain way. Sometimes it causes the seal to break and you get in, you lose some air, you breathe in something and you're sucking in. To offset those limitations, physical training, going to the gym, working out. We had a weighted vest, or we have a weighted vest that you can put on the simulated air pack. You know, you don't want to go into the gym with your SCBA bottle and run on the treadmill for a little bit. It's going to look funny, but you can get you one of these weighted vests that simulates that amount of weight. It will simulate your weight and your SCBA. Medical evaluations. Let's say every year we got to do that physical. We go to the doctor and they test our blood, they check our blood pressure. All those things make us breathe in that tube to make sure that we're breathing all right. Those are type things that if we do, an indicator pops up, hey, this guy's heart rate's off today. They may say, okay, well, you need to take a couple days off and we'll check you again. Maybe you ate something, too many monsters, got your heart racing. Proper fit testing, like what I mentioned. Every day when you check your mask, you want to make sure you got a good seal to make sure you know, something's not changed in it. But annually, we used to do, we're getting back in the groove. We haven't done them every year, our fit tests. We did our own. We have the machine and you got to lean over and talk and move your head from side to side. It's a whole 4 or 5 minute ordeal that you got to do, and you got to read something so that your face is making all those movements that you might be doing while you're working and you don't realize it, to make sure that and it's hooked up to a special hose that's monitoring all this stuff, and they say, okay, well, your mask is not the right size, or you know, something's going on. Another reason why they don't really want facial hair in the fire service, that keeps that mask from sealing up properly. It's a life-saving tool for us. If something happens, you got a beard, and maybe that hair kept it from having a good seal, we sucked in some bad stuff. Limited visibility is one of the biggest things that we have to overcome with SCBA. Like I say, your mask may be scratched up so you can't see that good. You may be in an atmosphere that's completely dark and black and you're not be able to see. So that's one of the biggest things that we we have to overcome on the SCBA. Decrease communications. I don't know how much firefighting you've done. You ever heard a firefighter trying to talk in a mask? Communicate with dispatch, tell them you need a whole list of stuff? Sounds like Charlie Brown on the other end of dispatch. We do PIAs after our fire calls, and we used to get the recordings so that the guys could listen to that, because just talking in a plain normal voice is just as clear as when you go hollering. That just changes everything up. Then it's really, just because you got that mask on, you're hollering, your voice still isn't getting out any better. So just take your time, say what you got to say. Nowadays they have an integrated voice box on these things. They don't have these on these masks, but they have a voice box where you can push a button, so when you're talking, it's easier to hear. It doesn't make for the ideal situations. Radio traffic, talking on a radio by itself, sometimes you can't hear that well. When you're trying to talk through this mask, but we had firefighters that would holler on the scene, "I need a lighter over here!" And you can't hear that stuff, so you let them hear that in the post-incident analysis is the PIA. You're reviewing what went on in that incident so we can fix what needs to be fixed. So you let them hear that. And they hear themselves scream and say, "Well, that sounds plumb silly." Well, that's you. So what can you do? Okay, I've heard myself hollering on the radio, or hollering 2 or 3 times trying to get something, and nobody can understand me. So change that. And that is a limitation that you have to think about and overcome. Man, I've been changing the channel here. Yeah. It's been talking with my hand. Decrease ability to communicate, endurance, that physical fitness part. You get in there, of course, it don't matter if you are physically fit. When you get in there and you start working and you're wearing an air pack, it is a part of endurance thing that it just happens to everybody. We've got some very fit guys on our department, but their hind ends are dragging when they get done with a couple bottles too. The decreased mobility, you're crawling around in somebody's house that you can't even see what's in front of you. You may be crawling around and go underneath the kitchen table and something happened. You get hung up or something like that. So our mobility is decreased when we got this thing on, or you got to go through a window or something, or a smaller spot to get to somebody or to get to the fire. And if you haven't already, you'll talk about different things in confined space where sometimes you got to take that air pack off and maintain your breathing. Take it off and get through that spot and then pull your air pack back through without ever losing the seal on your mask. Poor conditions of the apparatus, low cylinder pressure. You got some ways to monitor that, so pay attention to those things. Those different alarms that we talked about. You got the heads-up display that will let you know, and then after a period of time, the lights start flashing if you got the heads-up display. Ours has got a whistle on it. These here have a bell, so there's different ways that indicates the low pressure. What used to fit me when I was started firefighting, because I was a youngster like yourself, and my face was real slim. But as I got older, then my mask size or the way my mask fit or how tight I had to pull it was all a little bit different. So that's all important to make sure that if your facial features change, that hey, I need to do a test to make sure I still got a good seal. But the biggest thing to how to overcome these different limitations is the frequent, proper inspections, care, maintenance, and training. The more you put this on and off, the more you check it, do different things with it, the more comfortable you are and confident, and it makes it easier to use. It's just a regular, everyday tool nowadays. Like I say, I've been on this city department for 26 years. I've been firefighting for 31. So this stuff becomes second nature to you. Reaching back there and turning your valve on, or if I suck my mask in because I'm low on air or something's going on, that doesn't, it affects you different. It doesn't, you don't panic or anything. So the more you use this, the more you get comfortable with it, how you can tighten your straps up, the easier it is. It's no longer a limitation or less of a limitation. What we just talked about, some of the ways to overcome the SCBA limitations, training, using it. What steps can you take to decrease SCBA wear limitations and increase your proficiency while wearing it? What we just talked about. Dean, you okay?
Yeah, fine.
I just check. Make sure that
You do your thing.
explain the process of inspecting and cleaning an SCBA. When are we going to inspect it? For every shift. Says we're not supposed to, an SCBA shouldn't go a week without some type of inspection. If it has, then definitely before any use. But every shift when you come on, we're going to inspect that SCBA. Every time when we get back from a call, we're going to clean and inspect that SCBA. It's our only means of air when we go out on some of these calls. So if it's something wrong with it, then we could have real problems. Daily, weekly, department schedule determines the frequency of inspection. Like I say, ours says every day when you come on shift, you inspect your air pack. This might be your SOPs. Inspection typically performed daily, weekly, or whenever a firefighter reports to duty. Period between inspections must not exceed 1 week, what I mentioned. That might have a little bit of a leak, go down, it's on a truck. Somebody comes in to go out on that truck, nobody's checked that SCBA in a week, they get out there and strap that dude on, it's no good for them. Must be inspected by SCBA repair technician annually or after any repairs. So if this thing has to be sent off, like I mentioned before, Burkhead is our SCBA inspector. If something goes on, needs changed, repaired, fixed, pretty much we can let him take care of it. But that has to be done either after repair or at least annually. Clean and inspected after each use, the start of shift or every week. Repairs need to be reported immediately. If something's wrong with your air pack when you come to work, take it off, get a backup, one off one of the backup trucks or something else until somebody can look at that. Don't say, well, I'll tell them about this when they come in. That could be something that could mean life or death for you or cause you a problem that would hinder you getting your job done, yourself hurt or something like that. So set that air pack aside, go grab a spare one off of another truck, and if it's not, then maybe you just don't need to go on that call if you don't have an air pack that you need safely. Bottom line. Take it out of service, replace it with a reserve one. Inspect face piece every day. Weekly inspection, back plate, harness, all those different things I told you about. The plastic, something could go on with that. So we make sure all of our belts and buckles, make sure our bottle's secure. When you get done with the air pack, make sure your straps are back out. For me, when it's early in my shift, I want to make sure it's done for myself, so when I come back, I can start all over again, because it's easier to start over than when I tighten it up and I try to get that back on there. It just doesn't go the same as it did before. But then again, at the end of the shift, if I don't pull those straps out like they're supposed to be, the guy that comes in after me, if he has to get it on fairly quick and he didn't get it checked yet, he's not real happy with me, because he may be a bigger guy, and he actually is a bigger guy than me when it replaces me in the morning time. Check your cylinder, your hoses, your low pressure alarm. Crack that valve. We'll go through that stuff in a little bit. Crack that valve. Make sure your low pressure alarm's working properly. Make sure your pass device kicks on. Look, compare your 2 gauges. That's the time to compare the gauges. Actually, when you're in a fire, hey, what's my gauge say back there? Oh, yep, it's about the same. That's not the time. We want to check those things right then. Make sure that regulator's working. Does it work when you put it on bypass? Make sure that air blows out of there. Make sure that bypass gets turned back off, so when you turn it back on for a call, you're not blowing air out, losing air. Identify wear and tear. There may be a problem. Our door, all these trucks are tight, so sometimes the air pack strap may get over there by the door and somebody closes it on it every now and then, okay? You need to pay attention to that. If we're seeing that, then we got to do something different. We got to tuck it in somewhere, do something different with it, because after 10, 12, 15 times of opening and closing that door, we're putting a wear spot on that belt. And everybody just kind of gets used to seeing that spot, and you go to put that on, and it comes in 2 or something. So pay attention to these different wear and tear problems and try to figure out what we can do to fix it before it's so bad that it's got to be replaced or fixed. Document your stuff, your findings on a report, and report any problems and show the trends. Showing the trends is what I'm telling you. You document. We have a daily logbook, so I would go to my officer and say, hey, I'm finding this is what's going on with this air pack. Every day it's down so far. So either the guys are not closing it up or something's going on, but we need to fix what that problem is, because that could change how it affects us. If we get a call or something, maybe that bottle's going down so many PSI when they get a call and they just don't realize it. So check these things out. If you see a pattern, a problem that needs to be changed or addressed, point it out to your officer, make sure it gets documented, because the old saying, if it didn't get documented, it didn't happen. During inspection, the inspector should check the hydrostatic date label on the air cylinder to see if the cylinder is due for hydrostatic testing. Check for flaws and leaks. You guys been doing that? Haven't yet? Okay. Probably not there yet. But we'll look at that today. Clean, sanitize your face piece after each use. Ensure proper operation of exhalation valve and dry face piece with a lint-free cloth. Some places you got to share, some voluntary departments have to share SCBA masks. They don't have enough for everybody. So we got a lot of sickness and things like that going around. So when you come into work, if you have to share a SCBA mask with somebody, even if they said they cleaned it, for your own peace of mind, clean it the way you feel comfortable with. Make sure that it's good to go. When you put that, if you strap the mask on, make sure you got a good seal. Breathe in and out. Make sure that exhalation valve is working properly. Here's what we got here. Go through the exhalation valve. A mild soap after a call or something. These things get terrible nasty. They get more nasty when you're not wearing them. They're usually hanging down on your coat or something like that. You're in there fighting fire. if you don't have your SCB on, or you don't need it even outside, where you're picking stuff up, you get so much crap in your mask, and you have to go back and put it under the sink and really clean it up good. Just use a mild soap, but make sure you get it all dried out good so that it seals back. Check it again. Make sure it's all sealed up good. Disinfectant. Alcohol kind of dries these seals out, but sometimes we got alcohol wipes so we clean, wash the inside stuff out, but mild soap, clean and dry. Don't want to submerge your regulator down in a bucket of water. Might get something there and cause a problem. They make some stuff that you can put on for anti-fog on the inside. We actually, one of our guys seen something on YouTube the other day, was said you can put like a dab of Dawn on your finger, and you take and you just rub that all over and you just let the Dawn dry. Said it doesn't affect the visibility, but it keeps it from fogging up. None of our guys have tried it yet. It was a new thing to install. So, but they make some spray that you can put in there for anti-fog. We've tried several. Most of the time, they don't work too good. So, good luck with it. Clean face piece after each use. Store face piece in a bag. I guess did you all get bags that you store your mask in or not? Okay. And a lot of these masks are kind of stretched up, really kind of rough on them. But nowadays, our department always buys us a mask bag when we get new SCBAs, and that helps protect it. So it's just not out in the open, because our gear is actually hanging on the walls at the stations. So it kind of helps protect it a little bit. And there again, if you're not putting it on, you're at a call and you're doing something other than operations, you might have stuff you can get on it. I keep mine on the bag. It's got a little clip. I can put it on my air pack. Makes it pretty convenient. Annual maintenance must be performed by a factory technician. It's qualified according to the manufacturer recommendation. It can be, like I said, it can be somebody from the fire department if they've gone through the class, or a contractor that would come in. We started using a contractor for our fit test I told you about. They do that stuff every day. When you do something every day, it makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes when we were doing our own fit test, a little less convenient, because once a year you get this piece of equipment out, you got to calibrate it, all these different things. It's just less convenient for us, and we know that it's done right when somebody does it, that's doing it every day. When should SCBA inspections take place? Every shift? After every use, yeah. Annually, yeah, annually by a trained technician. Describe safety considerations for working in and exiting a hazardous atmosphere while using the SCBA. A properly worn, maintained, inspected respiratory protection will prevent us from being exposed to these airborne hazards. Other safety concerns is the fatigue. That's where the physical fitness comes into play. Be physically fit so that once you get all this gear on, if it's a hot atmosphere or cold atmosphere, I don't operate nearly as well in the cold as I can when it's hot. Summertime I can be drenched with sweat and kind of keep on going. Wintertime I kind of freeze up and just can't hardly get my oomph going. Regulating your air supply, know what you got, so you know how far you can go. Proper exit procedure. It kind of depends on what type of situation you're at. What is your scene? If you're in a scene where you got to come out and go through some decon before you go out into the public or back to the truck or the rehab, that's this proper exit procedure. Structured fire, maybe just a regular everyday house fire. Maybe you come back out, sit on a bench, go to the rehab truck, something we can clean up fairly easy. But if we're inside where lady's bleeding all over the place, and we don't need to go back to the truck. We don't need to go drag this stuff to rehab. We may need some type of decon or get this clothing off before we go on any further. Even in, say you had a hazmat situation, if you had a different level suit on, most of the time you always got an air pack on inside these things. So your air pack's your main source of breathing, regardless whether it's you're in this type gear or you're in a hazmat suit. But a hazmat suit definitely has those procedures. You definitely have a decon because you get stuff on you don't see. So you usually have a decon section that you go through. Only enter an IDLH atmosphere if you are certified to wear SCBA properly fit testing. Closely monitor how you feel. You're always going to be working usually in the buddy system. You always will be in that situation for sure. But you can't just say, I can't go get this guy. I don't know how many times he's put SCBA on, or what he knows about that SCBA. So I can't grab him and run into something. Hey, put this on, let's go. What's this strap for? He may have the mask on upside down by the time I get done. So unless you've been trained in that and you're comfortable with it, then I can't just throw you into one. I've rode out with St. Louis Fire Department a few times, and that's one of their deals up there. Is they want, are you here to fight fire or are you here to watch? Well, most of the time we're there to fight fire, but we're watching too. If you don't have certain training or they don't know your training for an SCBA, they don't want you to put that stuff on because they don't want to be responsible for something that you. I don't care if you've been a firefighter 26 years. If you come up there and they don't know your level of training or haven't seen certificate of it, then you don't put on an SCBA with them. Monitoring how you feel. You get into these type of situations. Maybe, I guess another example I can give you, we had a downtown fire. Got called back early in the morning. I didn't have anything to eat that day. Well, you get called back, you run to the station, get your gear, you go start fighting fire. It wasn't very long where my body started recognizing, hey, you ain't had nothing to eat, I'm tired. So I slowed down a little bit and kept on working. Well, it wasn't very long after that I was in the back of the ambulance getting some fluids because my body was draining, I was dropping out. So pay attention to these things. Listen to what your body's telling you. If you don't feel right, or if you feel like, man, my heart started racing, or you feel weak, change what you're doing. Go tell the supervisor, tell your officer, say, hey, man, I'm just beat right now. And I knew right away that, man, I haven't had anything to eat this morning. I couldn't even remember when I'd ate the night before, but that'll play a part on you. And actually, they wanted me to climb the tower to do the aerial operations for a while. I said, I ain't going up there, climbing up on that ladder. I don't be accidentally fall down. But those are the type of things that can get you in bad trouble. So pay attention to how you feel. Air supply duration. We don't always need to wait for the bell to go off or that little red light to flash to say, hey, you're about out of air. Because how far did you make it in this building before that went off? You may be way far back in somewhere or crawled through a bunch of different places to get there, and now you got a low air alarm. You need to be aware of these things when you're going in. Okay, I'm about halfway down on my air bottle, so I probably need to start back out. Don't get someplace where you run out of air and you're not going to have enough air to get you back out. And if something malfunctions, you got to know which way you can get out in the quickest way. The air cylinder size, just like we talked about earlier, some of them's the 2200 psi gets you about 30 minutes of air, and the 4500 will get you about 30 minutes of air, 20 minutes on the other one. Air cylinder size and beginning pressure. If you just checked your air pack off that morning, remember we talked about bleeding a little bit of air, so it's not completely full. So you get a big incident, you're not going to have that full 4500 psi to operate off of. The Task to be informed, your physical condition. You're pulling a bunch of ceiling. I like it when we get into a fire and you see that sheetrock on there and you take that pipe pull and you think, this is going to pull a little bit of ceiling. But you hit that sheetrock and there's solid oak behind that sheetrock where they used to build houses with solid slabs. Yeah, that'll exert you'll exert a lot of energy real quick with that. So those physical conditions and that task being formed, your SCBA is not going to last nearly as long as what you thought when you do very much of that. Level of training, you may be with somebody, a newer guy, maybe that hasn't done as much, so he's going to be a little bit more excited, going to be breathing a little bit faster, and that's going to change how much air that he's going to have. He's going to have the same amount of air, he's just going to be using it a lot quicker than you. And as you get older, sometimes you use a little bit more air too. And round. The operational environment, you got a full-blown house fire, man, it may be hot as all get out in there. You may be sucking a little more air down there in that time too. Stress level, the chemical fire that I told you about a long time ago. I was much newer, and so the biggest thing that I've seen, you see these buildings exploding and stuff on TV, on the news. That was a big thought that I had when I was in there, who was fighting that chemical fire. Man, what if something blows up in here? So I was probably breathing a whole lot harder than what I probably should have been instead of just taking care of stuff, because my stress level had increased. Nowadays, it would probably be a lot less because I'm a little bit more experienced. I had people like me dragging me along, so I can handle things a little bit better, a little bit different. But I've got a lot of younger guys that I got to watch over now. So there's air management techniques. Slow your breathing down. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Be conscious of your breathing. That is something that's very important. Before entering an IDLH atmosphere, check the cylinder pressure and estimate that point of no return. That's what I told you before. Don't wait till that little red light's flashing before you say, we got to get out of here and I don't have enough air. Establish a personal baseline for air usage. Know that, hey, when I get up here, I've done this much work. I've probably done about 3/4 of my air, so it's about time for me to start heading back out. After entering IDLH atmosphere, keep the SCBA on and activated until you leave the contaminated area. When you go to a decon or whatever, when one of these incidents, the air pack's the last thing that you're going to take off. Because whatever they're rubbing off of you or washing off of you, you don't want to be breathing that stuff in. So they're cleaning everything up while you're still on air. Improved visibility does not ensure that you're free of contaminants. And before you move the SCBA, the atmosphere must be tested and found safe. Most times if they got a decon area set up, that's a safe area. They're monitoring that area. The visibility, if you're in a type incident, factory or something, and the cloud, the vapors are all cleared up, oh man, I can breathe easy now, I'm out of it. Just because the cloud moved on or something, you're still in a bad atmosphere. Don't ever think that it's okay to take that off or that you're in a clear area until it's checked. Before we talk about working in teams of twos, that's the rule, always 2 in, 2 out. We want 2 ready to go. Is it always possible? No, it's not always possible. Manpower is something that does create an issue for that. But always be in 2s, where if something goes on with your buddy, you can say, okay, let's get out. If he says something's wrong with him, I'll say, okay, you go on out, I'm going to go on in and finish taking care of this. No, you're out too. Bad as you want to go in and take care of something, if that guy's out, don't take that chance of going in by yourself. Remain in physical, voice, or visual contact. Radio contact is not sufficient. Radio can't always be reliable. That guy behind you, if he's not touching the back of your leg as you're crawling through that house, you say, hey, we're going to make a right up here. We're going into a tight spot here. Communicate with them the whole time. They can't always see what you're doing. Just like I said, if it's completely blacked out, you can't see in front of you. Communicate with that person with your voice. And sometimes we've had to, it was so loud that you couldn't hear, so you tap on them and point back to the door, turn around the hose, whatever you got to get back out. Air supply status frequently. If you feel like you've done quite a bit of work in there, well, I better check my air out here because I should be getting close. Check that stuff out. Yeah, exit is what this says. Exit before your low air activates. When that thing goes off, it may be too late for you to have enough air to get back out. So you want to pay attention to that. Radio contact is not sufficient communication between team members. Why would that be the case in an IDLH atmosphere? What's that? It could fail, but you may be in an atmosphere that may flammable atmosphere. You key that radio up, you might have created a spark. Exit indicators, emergency and non-emergency. Always be prepared to make an exit, a rapid exit, or withdrawal. Non-emergency. Non-emergency, we think about, okay, I've got the fire out, I've done my overhaul, so I'm headed back out. Changing situation. Change in operational strategy. So maybe we need to go on a defensive mode. We got to get out of here because it's already blowing through the roof and 3/4 of the house is burnt. So we're going to change up what we're doing. We're going to have to get out of here. So still not necessarily an emergency at that point, but we've just decided that we're not going to make it any farther, and there's nobody here that we're saving. The house has gone far enough. We're going to get out. Necessary to replace your air cylinder. That's another non-emergency out. Hey, I'm down 3/4 on my bottle. I'm going to go ahead and head out and grab me another bottle or rehab for a little bit. So both of you head out. The IC orders a non-emergency withdrawal. IC maybe just like what we talked about. 3/4 of the house is gone. We're not making any headway on it. Let's pull out and go in defensive mode. Assignment's complete, what I mentioned at first. We got the fire out. Let's go outside, take a break, and then we'll come in and start some overhaul. All those things, non-emergency. We're not going to break a leg trying to get out. On the other hand, emergency exit indicators. Activation of low pressure alarm. That whistle or that bell starts going off, I got to get out of here. That's when you don't want to be too far from the door. Withdrawal orders from the IC or safety officer. How are they going to tell me that I need to get out? They're outside. How can they tell me? Radio. What's another way? Air horn. That's the all clear signal. Blow that several times to get out. Actually, one of this last time that I blowed it was middle of last year. I was on light duty. City manager was in front of the truck. The situation was deteriorating, and it was a multi-story apartment building. The incident commander or the battalion chief was on the ladder, and he seen the roof start coming in. He said, "Get them all out." I laid on that horn. Didn't matter who was standing in front of that truck. Hurt their ears. Scared the city manager a little bit. He thought I was messing with him. But then he said, "Why you do that?" Because he hadn't been at some of our fires. Explained to him that's the all clear. You hear that horn? Get out. So would it matter if this guy's this far away from me and I can see him? When that horn goes off, what am I going to do? He's this close. I can still get him. He's right there. When that horn goes off, it's out. You don't know. The roof already maybe started falling in. Sorry, guy. You ain't gonna know, maybe. But I can't take that chance. My life, my officer, whoever's in charge out there says, "Get out." When that horn goes off, I'm out. Changes in oxygen level or new hazards indicated. You're crawling back through this house, and and you get back there and there's two 55-gallon barrels, the house is burning all around, that's time to make an emergency exit. I don't know what's in them barrels, maybe gasoline. And in the beginning of my career, I don't remember if Dean was there or not, when me and Ralph got blowed out of that house. But it was over on the river. Me and our former chief, Ralph Stucker, had went in just inside the door. Like I said, I was still in the county, and we're fighting fire, and then we noticed a couple gasoline cans, but it was too late. They exploded, or something exploded in that house. He was beside the door, and it blew him up against the door facing. It blew me out of the driveway, and I wasn't wearing my PPE properly, and my Nomex hood was back behind my ears, so I got this part of my face burned pretty good. So it was one of those things. But if I'd have seen those, being a new firefighter, I might not have made that decision to turn around, because I didn't have this training that you guys are getting. So now I can tell you by example, if you see something in there that could potentially change what's going on, get out, go out and tell somebody else about it, because those 5-gallon gas cans made a big difference. Fortunately, it didn't kill us, just left something embedded in your mind. Oh, did I change the channel again? Oh, yeah, I'm still here. Okay, that was a new hazard. Found a new hazard. SCBA failure is the biggest one that we think about. Just the other day, one of our guys put a mask on. He started hollering, I can't got nowhere. We checked everything out. His mask, and he checked it that morning. But for whatever reason, and I still don't know because I haven't checked with him, his exhalation valve wouldn't work. And so he's trying to breathe out. Well, it's having to break through the seal on the side of his face. And that's not a safe condition. So SCBA failure, if he had got in there very far and all of a sudden that thing quit on him, he'd had to bail out pretty quick, because it makes it bad for you. Environment monitoring. Anytime you're in a situation where got to do some air monitoring, got that monitor with you, checking it out for potential hazards. If something's brought up that levels are dropping, or maybe levels increasing, something's going on here, we need to get out of here. Those are different things that's going to cause you to have to leave quickly. Oxygen deficiency. There again, you got a meter. It's going to let you know what's a normal oxygen level. 19.5, 21% pure oxygen. So anywhere between those two, you better have some there, or otherwise we know it's deficient. Report symptoms and evacuate the area immediately. Lightheadedness, disorientation, loss of coordination, increased breathing rates, or rapid fatigue. That's you. I can't tell what's going on with you. You got your stuff on. If I do see you're acting funny, or I'm trying to talk to you or tell you something, and I notice you're acting funny, I'm going to say something. Hey, you all right? Let's go out and get checked out. But if you feel something, don't try to keep going on, because it's not going to be worth it. I got to drag you and the other guy out. So if you feel something's going on with you, say, hey, let's go. Let's go get checked out. Non-emergency exit techniques. Well, during the buddy system, we get with our buddy, and whatever, if we come in on a hose line, or if we're in an incident, we'll go and check out what those two 55-gallon barrels are back there. We use a rope or something like that to go in. Then we can turn around and go out with that. But we've always got our buddy and we take it with us. The controlled breathing that we talked about earlier. Breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. It's a technique that you'll find yourself, once you know that you got to do something like that, practicing. You're sitting at the station, all of a sudden I'll notice I'll take a deep breath in and slowly start letting it out. And I'm looking around, it's like, do I look weird right now? Practicing breathing, it's just, you do it because, and it's good for you. It's good practice for times that you really need it. Egress path. When you came in, did you have to crawl over a bunch of stuff? Did you have to go through a bunch of doorways, crawl under some stuff? Think about those things when you got to get back out. Okay, I gotta crawl back over this, I gotta go through 3 doorways, stuff like that for a non-emergency exit. What are some emergency indicators that would signal a need to exit a hazardous environment?
Low pressure.
Low pressure? Change in the environment. What's that? Yep, someone blows a horn. That's an emergency exit, that's for sure. What are some non-emergency exit techniques fighters should know and practice? Yeah, kind of what he said on the low pressure, knowing how far I've gone. Okay, I'm down to 3/4 now. My bell lane went off, but I know that it's going to take me this much to get back out of there. So it's a non-emergency. You practice these things and know when I breathe this much air. In one of your trainings, when you do 2 courses out here or something, doing confined space rescue, anything like that, pay attention to your air. Yep, I know every time when I get down to 3/4, it's time to go. You're performing a search and rescue at a structure fire, and you see a person in need of rescue in the next room. The incident commander calls for emergency evacuation. Before you can reach them, what do you do in this situation? Get out. We talked about that, didn't we? Any questions, concerns, comments on this? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take about 5 minutes, and then we'll jump back on and we'll start going over these air packs a little bit.
I was just doing a crossword. You looked at your watch. You looked at your watch when I said that.
You'll have to put your name on those so that I can use this for your attendance today. But we're going to go through this stuff as a group, and you just work closely with him. All right, we're going to do skill sheet number 10 first. Like I said, this will be stuff. So this is just kind of a dry run for you guys, because when it comes down to time, it's probably not too long. You'll have to do a check off on this and get all this stuff right. So. You already started in? Yeah. Okay. First is check all components for cleanliness, physical, thermal, or chemical damage. So we're going to take that air pack. We got any war spots, places of concern? All of our buckles look okay? Found a spot on mine. You think this is okay? What could be a problem here?
Definitely.
Yeah, looks like maybe the door's been closed on this air pack. I don't know. But this is just another place for me to get home with some extra threads here. So we probably need to tell Instructor Bueller he needs to maybe look at turn this in. Okay, let's make sure, next one is make sure our cylinder's full. Approximately 90% capacity. Are we there? No? Yeah. And I know because we train here, these aren't going to be full, but you're checking this off first thing at the fire station. That's what we need to demonstrate. This needs to be a full bottle. 90% or better. Check the hydrostat date and verbalize when it's due to be tested again. Now on these, once they go get hydro, they get a sticker, and they put like some clear over it to kind of protect it. See yours? What's the date on you guys' bottle? These are every 5 years, aren't they, Dean?
Looks like 12.
Now, what you're looking at, see, you need to look for this round sticker. I see yours there on the side, because that was the original. Even this say 13. College don't keep that up.
I don't know.
13 was the last one of mine, so we're due for a hydro test. Yep, 913, that's what I got. I looked and I couldn't find another one unless it was put on where one of those labels that got wore off. So we need to check on that. What's our department's records? What is our, what we had to ask the department? When's the last time this bottle showed that it's been hydrated? And they're all labeled. Like you can see our old Papa Bluff number on here. On my old system, I can pull that number up and it should be able to give you any information about this bottle. Maybe they got different records. Maybe they're keeping them different. But usually, whoever hydros puts some type of indication on there. Turns the cylinder valve fully and verifies the pressure reading on the tank is with, and the regulator is with 100%. These threads, if you took your bottle out, these threads are long-winded. Especially when you got a guy waiting to change out their bottle. Our new ones have quick connects, snap on. Okay. Dons the face piece and checks for a seal. You can skip this just until you get, because I don't know about the cleanliness of this man.
Yeah,
I don't want you to try it on.
I don't know if I'm going to miss about mine either. It's over.
Everybody's alarms when they're going off with that goes wrong. Good? How do you guys test to see if you got a good seal? Suck it up? Suck it up to your face? Yep. Check your exhalation valve working. Okay, everybody's breathing out and it's working. Proper operation of the heads up. Does all you guys have heads up or none of them? Okay, so that'd be something you're going to check. If you don't have it at the time when you're doing your test, you want to verbalize that. Check all hose connections, make sure you ain't got no leaks. We don't have anything, you don't hear anything going out. We've got our bottles on, nothing's coming out. Check for adequate airflow. Put that regulator on, breathe in. Now operate the bypass on these. Bypass is working. Pass device is working. We know the pass device is working because we have to keep moving around. You're going to want to verbalize all this stuff if you don't have an air pack on. Turns the unit off. So let's turn it off and we're going to bleed it down to make sure our low air alarm's going off right. So on these here, if you got it off, you can hold your hand over it. You just let out a little bit of air at a time. Low air alarm works. Now after you've got your cylinder off and you've bled your air out of it, now you can turn your pass device off. It will not let you turn that pass device off until the air is bled out of it and the cylinder's off. You won't be able to bleed the air out of it if the cylinder's not off. What's the thing I told you the big guy doesn't like? If you don't what? Pull the straps back out. If somebody else has to get this before they can inspect it, you don't pull those straps out, somebody's gonna be upset with you when they're trying to get their arms around those straps. Everybody experience that? Okay.
Yeah, this is. Yeah, I just know every third day I know.
We talked about all the SCBA components. What are we gonna clean our face mask with? Water and mild soap, same thing with the air packs. Dirty, we can take it, what we usually do is take when we get back, scrub brush, a little bit of Dawn to clean them all up good. Applies a disinfectant inside that mask, especially if you're not the only one using that mask. If you share a mask with somebody else in the department, make sure you disinfect it good. Or if you're coming in after them, even if they say it's clean, make sure it's disinfected good. Do it again. So any of the harness or part of the air pack's dirty, make sure all that's cleaned up, ready to go for the next time. All of our stuff's set up for the next time the bell goes off, right? Next time the fire alarm goes off. All right. Any other questions or concerns about any of this stuff? We'll take a little small test here and review that, and then we'll, I'm going to be in that room there, and you just bring me your test with your name on it, and bring me your check-off sheet. When I grade your test, I'll call you in there, and we'll look at it. Man, get your first test and the first today. Because I told you, I don't remember anybody's name.
Should I just do that? Yeah, just tell Michelle because she'll get me. He's off. No. So, yeah. Here, you go ahead and contact her. All right, yeah. All right, yeah. You don't need my permission. Anytime something like that comes up, if it's, well, and that's fine, but if it's something, just say, hey, here's what's going on, or here, you call her, she says, hey, I need Jeff to, I don't care, you tell me what I need, I'm not one that has to have 900, because I said it takes me 6 people to get a PO. But then, change it.
Is everybody finished with their test?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Logan? Mr. Logan? Bring your checkoff sheet too, please. How you doing today?
Good.
Was there anything you was concerned about on the test?
Yes.
You missed 3 here. Let's look at it here. Airborne pathogens that cause illness through inhalation and or.
Yeah.
It's
I knew it was one of the two. But
direct contact. Yeah. Which SCBA component includes control valve and a high pressure hose? That's the cylinder.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't think about it because it's on the pack and stuff. Yeah, but the when you think of the control valve, you got to think about
It's
turning
on
the
the
tank
bottom,
on and off. Yeah. Which SCBA component allows the air cylinder to be transfilled and rapid intervention crew.
Yeah,
I
that
talked
one.
about the rapid intervention team is what we call it, the RIT team. So anytime you think of buddy breathing or the rescue breathing or whatever, then it's the rapid intervention team on that. Okay? So just something for you to work on. All right. Appreciate it. No other questions or concerns about the class.
No.
All right. I appreciate you.
All right.
You have to forgive me because some of you guys write like me. Who writes like that?
Like a signature looking?
Yeah.
It's probably me.
Okay.
I'm like, yes. Senior Chris is a, yeah.
That's the okay.
It's a good signature though.
Hey, I can't complain. I've been there. I've had to.
Oh, I didn't bring it.
Yeah, bring a check off sheet. Sorry.
Well, I wrote it on these. It was just the test I signed it on.
Hey, I know because simply, I had the chief call me one day. He says, hey, I can't read this. You're going to have to sign better than that. Well, your signature is your mark.
Right.
So that's part of it. Did you have any questions about the test?
No, not really. I think the only
Miss 2, one of the airborne pathogens caused by illness through inhalation and what else? Direct contact.
Oh, yeah.
A daily or weekly inspection of SCBA should be to check the regulator and the face piece. Make sure I'll check that cover. Yeah.
Okay.
C on that one, okay?
Yeah.
It just didn't sound right there to me for a second, so
Yeah, you're-
just those 2 things. I'm gonna work on it, yeah. You're just beginning this class, so you know what you gotta do, okay?
Yep.
All right, man, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Michael, bring your checkoff sheet if you didn't already give it to me. Did you have any questions or concerns about the test?
No, just some of the wording, I guess.
Okay. You missed 4. It's airborne pathogens may cause illness through inhalation, and direct contact is the other biggest thing to think about. Just every time something gets on your skin, even dirty bunker gear,
We don't think about it a lot, but sometimes our collar gets stuck because falls on there, and then we put it up, and then it's rubbing on us. So any direct contact with the stuff, which SCBA component includes a control valve and high pressure hose. The cylinder, and the way you want to remember that is how do I turn it on and off? It's the cylinder. So that's just the control valve. So yeah, that's easy, helps to remember that easy. Which SCBA component allows the air cylinder to transfill from another bottle? The buddy breathing deal, rapid intervention crew. I referred to it as the rapid intervention team. Yeah. So anytime that you're thinking of somebody helping you out or transfilling, that may help to remember that a little bit. And then a daily or weekly inspection of SCBA should include the regulator and the face piece. You want to make sure that's working, okay? That's 4. So just,
And those are all 50/50 ones I have too. Those are like, it was either or.
yeah. So try to go with your gut. I've always found that I'm not a real good test taker myself, so I get to the same point like you. Is it this one or this one?
And that's what, yeah, especially with this one, because I was like, well, just keep doing this.
Yeah.
And then the red team.
Yeah, it should. And the answers are really close, and that's really what makes it tough. But just read your book and practice those things. All right, all right. Appreciate it. I'm gonna just keep all this stuff for records. Thank you.
And I got an email from my wife.
Brent, if I don't have your check off sheet, would you bring it?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions or concerns with the test?
Nope.
Okay. I don't know what happened here. We just skipped number 4.
Oh yeah, I completely skipped.
You just don't like number 4?
Yeah, number 4 is not my number.
All right. SCBA can protect from blank, which can be caused by inhaling heated gases. Just asphyxiation.
Yeah.
You probably knew it. Just
Yeah, just
did I do number 4?
I looked down. I'm like, I'll go back to it, and I completely forgot about it.
Just be careful on that.
Yep.
We actually recently had some test applicants that skipped a page
Yeah,
and messed up their whole deal.
whole set
Yeah.
because of that. Yep.
Yeah, just
understand that.
No, you shouldn't be in a hurry. Now sometimes there's time tests, but if
Yeah.
you got time, go back and look at it.
Yep.
Yep. All right.
Then on these, I started marking those.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
I'm
I figured
gonna
you would mark
mark-
through them anyways.
Yeah. But yeah, if you don't have any questions or concerns, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dalton?
First day, first test. You only missed 2, man. That's impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
Airborne pathogens may cause illness through inhalation and direct contact was the other one.
Okay.
Okay. Which SCBA component includes the control valve and the high pressure hose. What helps me remember that is to turn that thing on. I gotta reach back there at the bottle, so it's the cylinder that has the control valve on there. But everything else is real good. That's pretty impressive for your first day in class. Any other questions or concerns? Hopefully the other guys that do this all the time will be back in here and you'll be more impressed with them. All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Mr. King?
questions or concerns with the test?
There's one that I don't know if I got right or not.
Yeah. I don't know if you just misread the directions, but you, no, I'm just kidding. You didn't make them all.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
Good
yeah,
job.
there's one I was like,
Yeah, and sometimes the answers are pretty close to sound same, what causes confusion.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, sir. Done? Go out here and say my piece and.
Okay.